Welcome to Showing Up Solo, your go-to source for solopreneur success in the digital world. You're not just running a business, you're wearing all the hats, from CEO to content creator. What if I told you there's a way to master online marketing without sacrificing all your time? Hello, and welcome to the 75th episode of Showing Up Solo. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're at 75 episodes already. And so because it's the 75th episode, and because this episode is being released in October, which is Dyslexia Awareness and ADHD Awareness Month, I thought I would take this opportunity to share a little bit about my experiences marketing and selling my services as a solo business owner who is also neurodivergent. Sharing my personal experiences and some things that have helped me get past a few of my mental roadblocks, and hopefully sharing some advice with you that you might find useful. Now, just for clarity here, so I am dyslexic. I found out I was dyslexic when I was 13. And since becoming an entrepreneur, so very recently, only in the last couple of years, I've also discovered that I have ADHD. My experiences are clearly affected by my my experiences with disability are clearly affected by the way I was brought up, the opportunities that I had growing up. I was fortunate enough that my parents could send me to a private school that had smaller class sizes, where the teachers had the time and capacity to identify learning difficulties in students and adapt. So I want to acknowledge that my experience with disability is not going to be everyone else's experience with disability. It's coming through the lens of someone with a middle-class upbringing, the lens of someone who was socialized as a woman, as a white woman. But for background as well, I have had experience working with neurodivergent people. I used to work with neurodivergent children. I trained as a teacher, and we learned a little bit about accommodating and accessibility and inclusive practices during teaching practice. I also happen to come from a family of neurodivergent people. All of my siblings are neurodivergent. My children are neurodivergent. My partner's neurodivergent. So it's funny if you have neurodivergent children and you've ever tried to get them diagnosed. I've realized that I actually have no point of reference for what neurotypical children should behave like, because all of my experiences with children have been with neurodivergent children. So also a language thing, I'm going to do my best to use inclusive language. If I slip up, I apologize. I personally prefer to use the term dyslexic and ADHD versus person with dyslexia and person with ADHD. I will use those interchangeably, but bear with me. Like I said, this is very much through my own lens. Anywho, so a little background story on me. As someone who with dyslexia and a person who was undiagnosed with ADHD, I spent a lot of my life feeling not good enough. I clearly remember, before being diagnosed with anything, feeling like, or thinking, I must be stupid. I don't feel stupid, but I must be, because I can't seem to do all the stuff that everyone else can do. But I knew I didn't feel stupid, and that was a real roadblock. for me, getting diagnosed at 13 with dyslexia was actually very reassuring because I had a great psychologist assessing me, and they explained how everything broke down. And they basically said, here, I've got numbers to show you. You are not stupid, like just unequivocally no. In fact, you're very, very smart. And here are the differences. Basically, they measured various intelligences, like intelligence is related to mathematics and spatial, and then also like reading. And what they showed me was like all your intelligences are up here, but your reading ones are down here. And they're still at the right level for someone of your age, but everything else is much higher than someone of your age. So that difference is your dyslexia. And having someone take the time to explain that to me helped a lot. And it did go a long way to helping me feel empowered by my diagnosis, whereas I know a lot of people feel the opposite. But it still didn't solve all my problems. I knew that I could be very disorganized, so I became obsessively organized. I knew that I could be late for things, so I became obsessively early. And I started adopting these behaviors to counteract the ways that my dyslexia and ADHD put up barriers to me that a neurotypical person wouldn't necessarily even notice. And with that came a lot of anxiety. I sort of went from like, if I didn't do anything, I'd have been over here, whereas a neurotypical person would have been here. And when I did do my stuff, I swung further to the other side. I had this weird idea in my head that if I could do something, that was the bare minimum that anyone should be able to do. Basically, I thought of myself, if we were on a ranking system of 1 to 10, I basically thought that I was a 1. So if I could do it, it was a 1. Everyone would be able to do it. And I didn't think anything I could do could be a 10. This presented itself in a few ways as when I became an adult and I started working, particularly when I got put into positions of authority, like manager roles. I was definitely a micromanager, and my expectations of other people were unrealistic. They were always, I never expected anyone to do more than I could, but I didn't see the fact that my expectations for myself were up here unreasonably high. So I basically, I was like, if I can do it, they should be able to do it without any problems. And that caused a very toxic work environment. Luckily, I have maturity and the experience of becoming a parent. And when you become a parent, you're constantly messing up and constantly being shown just how little you know, which is a great learning experience. That's to say, like, all this time, these were presenting, and I was also gaining in extreme anxiety. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought that that's just how everybody felt. Because again, I don't know what it feels like to be neurotypical. I don't. I just go by what I'm told, what I see, and I didn't realize that there was another way of being because I've never been any other way. All of this culminating in constantly taking jobs. Like, as soon as I got a little bit too much responsibility or authority, where the anxiety was getting really high, I would just cut and run. I would quit that job that I'd worked really, really hard at, put 110% into, and I'd go find another job and start at the bottom again and work my way up, and then start at the bottom again and work my way up. And constantly, I often refer to my past experience as chronically undervalued and overqualified. So, like, I always took jobs that I was like, that were way below my skill set level, that I was like, there was no way I couldn't succeed at that job. I couldn't excel at that job. And I never took one that really challenged me. I never took on any responsibility that I wasn't completely sure I could nail. Um, and as I got better, then of course I either got more responsibility and more anxiety, or I got bored because I reached a cap for that particular role. I experienced this, for example, when I started taking admin roles, because when you work in a law firm, for example, there's like only so far you can go in admin. After that, you got to be a lawyer, or a paralegal or a legal assistant, which was not something I had any interest in doing. So like there was definitely a ceiling to what I could achieve there. And of course, I was really good at my job. One of those people where like, what do we do without you? I remember planning for my mat leave, and um, just for the difference between planning for my first mat leave and my second mat leave, I hit in between those two, which was just about a year or so, I took on even more responsibilities that they needed like two people to replace me, because I kept taking more work on because I was under utilized. I was understimulated. I was bored because I could do that job very easily. See, now I'm going to apologize for boasting, which that's me feeling like I need to apologize for myself. I don't need to apologize for this. I'm sharing this experience with you to provide some context of how my neurodivergence was showing up in my life when I wasn't really paying attention to it, when I was sort of ignoring its impact on my life. My mindset at this stage was that it was a limitation I needed to overcome, as opposed to where I am now, which I'll get to. So then 2020 hits, and I'm in yet another job that I can do blindfolded. I'm been at it for less than a year, and I'm already bored stiff, and I'm also frustrated because my anxiety is really high. There were a lot of other factors going on too. I was recovering from postpartum depression and a pretty significant loss in the family. So I was grieving too. And so there were all these other factors going on. And basically, I couldn't manage my anxiety anymore. And so simple tasks that were that should be really, really easy for me were becoming stressful and overwhelming. And my doctor convinced me, thank you. She was gently nudged until I fully acknowledged that I needed it. She convinced me to take stress leave. And I'd started taking anti-anxiety medication as well to sort of help work on my anxiety, which at the time I thought was the problem. I didn't realize that it was the symptom. My first day back from stress leave, which was just 3 weeks, I got fired. I got let go. They said they didn't need me anymore because of all the 2020 stuff. The role just wasn't necessary anymore. They're going to have someone else absorb it. And they let me go with 2 months of severance. And now I'm in the middle of pandemic. Still high anxiety. I have a husband who is awaiting to attend school because he's in the middle of a career change. So I was the sole income earner. And now I got to do something. And I didn't want to go start from the bottom again because I knew how that story would end. And I didn't want to go find a whole new company to work with, especially during a pandemic. So someone told me about becoming a virtual assistant, and I hopped on it, and I got right in there, and I got stuck in. And just being in business for yourself and having to drum up your own business is a huge mindset journey on itself. Because you have to start saying really nice things about yourself. And if you're anything like me, you're very used to saying negative things about yourself. You're probably super comfortable saying any and every negative thing under the sun, but when it comes to paying yourself a compliment, it hurts. It's hard. It's painful. And I had to get over this very quickly. When I started my business, I went for those things I knew I could do blindfolded to begin with, and of course found boring. So my business pivoted a couple times. Thankfully, I was doing some mindset work in the process. I encountered Dyslexia in adults, which is an incredible online community founded by Natalie Brooks. I will make sure I leave links in the comments. And she would have these were they monthly or weekly? They were regular virtual meetings with just fellow adults with dyslexia, and just sharing my experiences was so helpful. For one thing, I had been learning to drive at the beginning of 2020. And I have tried to learn to drive several times. I've also tried learning to ride a bike. Cannot ride a bike. I can drive, but I never completed it, never got as far as going to the test. And most recently, I actually had a panic attack during a driving lesson on the highway. Haven't driven a car since. But to find out that I was not the only person who had these experiences, I was not the only person. There were other people with dyslexia who didn't drive and didn't ride a bike, and that it just wasn't me who was deficient there. It was something that other people experienced. And Natalie Brooks is amazing. I cannot say enough wonderful things about her, but one of the things that she did was talking less about steering clear of using things like dyslexia as a superpower, but also not seeing it as a weakness either, sort of basically claiming it as a piece of who you are, acknowledging your dyslexic strengths and the areas where you need support, and reframing it that way. She also kind of opened my eye up to the idea that I maybe had ADHD. Around this time, there was a lot of people who I was connecting with who were wondering if they had ADHD. And of course, TikTok, in the years follow, everything came about. You might be a woman with undiagnosed ADHD, which made me more aware of it. That's a problem with getting diagnosed, especially young, is often when they find one diagnosis, they're like, okay, we got it. We got the label. We're good. So they don't often look for the other elements. Also, our definitions of various things have evolved. I just had my 2 children tested and diagnosed with ASD, so autism spectrum, and they would never have been diagnosed with it 20, maybe even 10 years ago by the definition that they had back then. But now our understanding has grown, and now we're seeing that there's a lot more people who fit into that diagnosis, that definition. One of the other things that I have to thank Dyslexia and Adults for was just them pointing me in the direction of grants specifically for entrepreneurs with disabilities. Something as simple as prompting me to do that Google search. I happened to find this wonderful program through the BC provincial government for entrepreneurs with disabilities. What I really appreciated about the application process is they just asked for a self-diagnosis. Again, if you've had this experience with this, getting a diagnosis is a whole can of worms. I had my diagnosis from when I was 13, and I had like a top-up diagnosis from when I was in university, but I haven't been officially reassessed in years. I mean, you don't grow out of dyslexia. It doesn't go away. It's there with you for life. But like a lot of the bureaucracy around getting supports or access to funding requires a recent assessment, a recent diagnosis, which can be really hard to get access to or even pay for. So I was really appreciative that this program just asked for self-identification. I got a call from someone to see if I was a good fit for the program. I remember crying because they were so wonderful, and they were like, immediately, I didn't have to plead my case. They were like, yeah, we're going to get you some help. We're going to set you up with a business coach who knows how to work with neurodivergent people. That coach got me working with a therapist who actually specializes in neurodivergent people, and it was wonderful. And through that support, I came to with my therapist support, we kind of came to the conclusion that I had ADHD. And again, lots of praise for my family doctor, who is wonderful. She also has ADHD and anxiety, so she's been wonderful in giving me the gentle nudges I need towards treatments without being pushy. like I remember her asking me how I was doing, and I said, "Oh, I cope," and she was like, "Hannah, you shouldn't have to cope." And that just being like, "Oh, I didn't realize that that was an option." And long story short, although long story long, I started getting medicated for ADHD, and that has been a game changer. I remember when I first started it, and thinking, "Oh, I didn't realize that feeling like this was an option. I didn't realize that it didn't have to be hard." And just for clarity, medication doesn't work for everybody, and different medications work for different people. And it doesn't get rid of the ADHD symptoms, but it did for me make a big difference. It did help me in particular. I there was a noticeable difference for me, and I'm actually now in the process of coming off of my anxiety medication because I feel that my anxiety was a symptom of my untreated ADHD. So I'm curious to see how I feel, how my anxiety is once I'm not being treated for anxiety and I'm just being treated for ADHD, and we'll see how that goes. But finally getting treatment was huge, but also just acknowledging who I am, what things are going to be a challenge, and what strengths I have that other people don't. And so this is where we get into out of Hannah's story and into marketing again. So, like I've said, it was very hard for me to say nice things about myself, and I had to figure out how to say that. But I've also figured out something in working with other people. I listened to the nice things that they said about me. If you watched, I think it was episode 73 with Victoria Taylor, we talked about the power of social proof. There's another powerful reason to get social proof, to get testimonials from clients and people that you've worked with, because you get nice things said about you, and it really helps to see those nice things. And for example, one of the pieces of feedback I was getting was they really enjoyed our calls together. They really enjoyed our strategy sessions, and that I had a way of taking ideas out of their head and putting it into words. That is a strength that I get from dyslexia and from ADHD, this ability to think visually, this ability to see not only the whole picture, bird's eye view, but the minutia at the same time. Like this ability to jump from big picture to small picture and to connect the dots of random ideas, seemingly random, sporadic ideas, and like see the connections and then put those connections into easy to understand languages. You know that I like to use my analogies. That's one of the things I do is taking one idea and explaining it using another idea that makes it really easy to understand and digest. Like my shoe store analogy. I've had people say, like, I didn't get it until you explained it to me using the shoe store analogy. And this is a strength that I have because of the way my dyslexic ADHD brain works. And that's why I'm starting to include a lot more language in my marketing about being neurodivergent, because it is a skill set that not everybody has. Neurotypical people do not have the same brain as me. Like they don't have, their brains don't work the same way as me. And so that is a skill set that I have that no one else can bring. And it's enabled me to just sort of lean into what I'm really good at and what I'm really unique at. So, for example, I was doing a lot of social media management in the early days. It's writing the content, like creating the content, creating the strategy, but then also populating the content and pushing it out into the social media worlds. And that's time consuming, and it's something you need to do regularly. The content population, engaging on social media, you have to be like in there daily. That doesn't work well for my ADHD. My energy when it comes to ADHD, my creative energy ebbs and flows. Some weeks I'm having a high creative energy week and I can just create like nobody's business. And other weeks sometimes it's a struggle just to open the computer and check my inbox. And I have learned to not fight that, and to build, and I've built my work around that. So something that I do now is I do a lot of content batching, so planning things well ahead, or offering strategy services and then having someone else do the execution. So I say, this is what you need to write. This is your content plan. You go write the captions and then bring them back to me, and I'll make sure that they're in line with what I was thinking. And then you go send them out. And that has been a huge help too. And it's something that people want. Again, it was something like, I didn't think strategy was anything special until I realized how many people can't do it, or how many people just don't have, like, it, something that feels very natural to me is not something that's natural to other people. It's the same thing with writing. It feels very natural to me, and yet for lots of people it's not natural. The easiest way to figure this out, again, and this is where my the lessons learned from management, is when you try to get someone else to do something you do, and trying to explain something that comes very naturally to you to someone else and have them create the same result is incredibly difficult. So I started to realize, well, first of all, maybe it's not because what I'm doing is minimum. Maybe what I'm doing is what we need to work up to. Not everyone's going to get there, because that is a strength that I have, and it's maybe not a strength that they have. Or being able to spot the people who do also have that strength, and knowing when to pull back and let them work through it themselves. So a lot of the journey is about figuring out your secret sauce, your special sauce. And this applies to everybody, neurodivergent or not. Like, what is it that you bring to the table that no one else can? I bring Hannah to the table, but then I have to dissect that into what different elements. So I know that if you get on a call with me to kind of work through your marketing messaging ideas, you're going to leave that call feeling like you have a lot more clarity and feeling like really encouraged. I know that because I have a lot of results. I have a lot of feedback from people. I've had a lot of experiences of people who have said just that. I also know that, like, I can deliver you a comprehensive strategy on what to post and when. I know that I can write something that'll sound just like you, because I know I have the systems in place, and I know that I have, like, that's a talent that I have. I also just want to say there's a lot of people confuse or put skill and talent in the same pile. There's things you have a natural strength in, and things you maybe don't have a natural strength in. But I am proof that it doesn't matter whether you are naturally strong in it or not. Practice makes perfect. The more work you put into it, the better you get. I have a reputation of being an organization queen, which is a weakness of mine. Being organized is not my strength. That is an area I struggle with and I have a challenge with. I have combated that by putting in more practice so that I am really good at organization. But that has not come from natural, like, given abilities. That has come from practice. Whereas other skills I have, there's obviously being practice in there, but a lot of those also come from, like, a natural ability. I'm going to let my nerd show. And it's like the difference between wizards and sorcerers, right? Wizards have spent years studying magic. Sorcerers are naturally gifted at magic. Like, they're able to create magic, but they need to learn how to harness it. Wizards aren't naturally gifted with magic. They learn about it and then use that to harness magic. Oh my gosh, I'm such a... I hope some of you are D&D enthusiasts and are going, yeah, I like that analogy. So these are just some things I've learned, lessons I've learned, is to find those things that really make you different, make you unique. And it's okay to be specific. So I am working towards working with more neurodivergent clients because I have been accumulating them and having really good relationships with them. And I have a good understanding of their needs. Now, I'm going to say this. I've had a couple neurodivergent clients, and all of them have had different needs. Even like 2 with ADHD, different needs. So, but I'm sensitive to their needs, and I adjust my approach. I adjust the way I work with them to accommodate what they need. And this is another unique strength that I have, is that I have that understanding. I'm willing to make those adjustments. So that also makes me a good fit for fellow neurodivergent entrepreneurs. Some mindset tricks that may help you. Again, whether you're neurodivergent or not, is like, again, I was so used to thinking that what I offered was the bare minimum. So flipping that and realizing what I offer that is above and beyond. Like, what about me is special and stands out? That's one thing. That needs to come across in your messaging, in the way you talk about yourself, and the way you market your services. And you need to get used to saying nice things about yourself. So writing a list of positive things about yourself, which is a super squirmy, uncomfortable thing, but try doing that. Asking people to say nice things about you, again, help that. And just leave the negativity out. You don't need that right now. I'm not saying don't be open to constructive criticism, but you don't need you don't need the negativity right now. You need to focus on the positives and focus your marketing, your messaging on those. In terms of showing up and socializing, of course, I was earlier this year, I was talking at a conference, and then I was traveling, and I was meeting a lot of new people, and at events where I needed to network, and that is super scary for me. I'm also an introvert, and I was giving a fellow business owner, the advice that I go, which is just, oh, if you're not confident, just pretend that you are. And they were like, Hannah, that's masking, you realize it. And sort of just coming to that awareness of this like kind of fake persona. Something I have done over the last couple of years is merge that. I used to have various presentations of myself. There was work Hannah, there was friends Hannah, there was home Hannah. And like condensing them all so that there's really just one Hannah. There might be a slight filter between work Hannah and home Hannah. Like, I'm not about to dump all my, like, complaints about laundry and, and all that stuff on you. There's like a filter, but it doesn't mean that you're still getting me. You're just getting, through a work lens versus all of my like little tidbits of daily stressors. But like being, again, able to show up more as me. So I don't have to put on a persona. I'm just being more comfortable being myself. Practicing saying to clients, hey, I know that this was due, or that this was due at the end of the week. How urgent is it? Because I'm having a bad ADHD day and I'm just not there. Or I need to take a self-care day. I will get the work done in time, but just leave me alone today. And you would be amazed at how many people are super understanding. They don't care, especially if you're upfront about it. If you're upfront, and like, my clients know that this is me now. And so I say, like, I need to build in a good like window of time to deliver things so that I have enough space to accommodate those ebbs and flows of energy. And that's another thing, like not forcing yourself. And there's a difference between powering through procrastination and forcing yourself. One of the ways I do this in my business is I get in front of the computer every day, because if I don't get in front of the computer first thing in the morning, I know I won't. I open my inbox and I check messages and stuff. And then I try to do the first most important thing. But if my brain space is just not in the right, if I'm not in the right headspace to do that, I will just do something useful. Maybe it is uploading content and scheduling it, which doesn't require a lot of engagement up here, but it is a time-consuming task that needs to get done and is useful for my business. So maybe I have a blog post I need to write or some website copy I need to write, and it's just the ideas haven't quite crystallized in my head yet. I don't have something to put from my head onto paper yet. So I need to wait. That's not come yet. I'll just use the time that I would have been doing to do that to do something else useful, something else that's getting me. And if I can find something engaging, something that gets me like interested and stuck in, you might find that having that energy like fired up, then it brings the energy for the other task. So that's my rule, is like, just try to do something useful for as long as you can. And then when you get to a point where you're like, okay, I am drained, I am getting distracted, and I am just not able to focus on anything anymore, giving yourself permission to just log off, close the computer, go take a nap, go take a walk, whatever it is, it's okay. And not forcing that. That has been wonderful for my anxiety, and has been wonderful for my energy, and wonderful for my attitude to my work and what I do. So I realize I've been talking a long time. Just want to sort of summarize that and say that I guess too long didn't read of this is that be aware of the mindset blocks that you might have accumulated because of being neurodivergent or undiagnosed neurodivergent or whatever your story of your life is. There's going to be some unconscious mindset blocks that are going to get in the way of you selling yourself. Because to sell yourself, you need to say great things about yourself. You need to promise results. You need to talk yourself up. So being aware of what's getting in the way of that, unpacking that, and then focusing in on your strengths, on the good things that people are saying about you, because it's so easy to dismiss something good and then focus in on something negative. Ignore the negative and talk about and focus on the good things. Focus on those good things and do more of the things that you do well. Focus on pivoting your business towards doing more of what you do well. Look at what only you can do, and then take the rest and outsource it if necessary. Get someone else to do it. Like I was saying with the strategy, not everyone has that ability to come up with a strategy, but there are plenty of really good writers out there who, if told what to write, will be able to write amazing content. I can also write amazing content, but I'm not the only one who has to do that. So when people are coming to me for my strategy work, it's okay for me to, like, it makes sense for me to focus my energy on that, because that is the thing that I bring to the table, and facilitate someone else taking on the work that other people can also do equally as well. And then just practice being yourself. I made a mug. I don't think I have it on my merch store anymore, but called the sorry jar, which is every time you feel like apologizing for existing, you need to put like a penny in the sorry jar. But stop apologizing. Don't apologize for having ADHD, for having just a bad ADHD day, like a day where your energy is just not there. Don't apologize for it. Own it. I'm having an ADHD day where my energy is low, so I'm not going to be able to do this work today, but I'm not letting you down. I'm going to deliver it. It's not happening today, and I'm not apologizing for that. Or setting clear expectations. Your clients won't be upset with you if they know this about you. It's one thing if it's like 10 minutes before a deadline and they've never heard this at all, then it feels like an excuse. But if you've been open about who you are and what you do, there's some really wonderful people out there who just want everyone else to succeed as well, and so are going to accommodate you. Shout out to iilo Creative Alliance, who have been particularly helpful as I've evolved. I've been collaborating with them for 3.5 years now, and they have evolved the way I engage with them based on how I've evolved my business. So they haven't said, oh, you're not doing that anymore, we don't want you. They said, okay, great. Well, how do we continue working with you? And evolved the approach and everything from me doing it all to me doing with the help of someone else, to them building an internal team and me providing strategy. And they're an absolute wonderful organization. I'm going to leave a link to them because they just wrote a blog post about like how they're such an why they're so awesome to work for, because of how inclusive they are. So I'll leave a link to them as well. But there are wonderful people out there who are ready and willing and happy to support you as a neurodivergent entrepreneur. So own it. Be proud of the things that you're good at. You're not all weaknesses or limitations or shortcomings. You're not. You're just you. You have things that you're really good at and things that you find a challenge. And that's okay, because everyone's like that. They might have different things that are a strength and different things that are a challenge, but everybody has strengths and challenges. Own your strengths. Promote those in your marketing. Understand that that is what makes you special. And you are special. There is no one else like you in the world. And again, really hard for me to people, it took me a long time to understand that people want to work with me. There's a million marketing coaches out there, but the people who work with me want to work with me. There are people who want to work with you. Understand why they want to do that, own that, and then translate that into your marketing. And try to just dismiss the negativity. Ignore, I know there's a lot of fear about showing up on social media and getting trolled, or fear about saying the wrong thing. I might have said the wrong thing during this episode, and I might have triggered someone who's a person with a disability. If I have, I apologize. Please let me know, because I want to learn. But I'm also willing to show up here and make the mistakes. So it's okay to show up and make mistakes. It's okay to own that you have challenges, but don't forget to own your strengths too. And remember that you are different to everybody else. You are unique. There are things that you are better at than other people. And that is wonderful. And that's what needs to come across in your marketing. I would really love your thoughts on this. So please put it in the comments or share this to social media and tag at Showing Up Solo if you found this episode insightful or inspiring, and to add your part of the story to it. I would love that. I really want to have a nice open dialogue, and what's more appropriate than ADHD and Dyslexia Awareness Month. One little housekeeping note is this is episode 75 of Showing Up Solo. It's been going on for just under 3 years now. I am going to be pulling back from the podcast a little bit going forward. We're not going anywhere. We're not disappearing. All of the old content is still available on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. Still all available on the showingupsolo.com website. I'm just not going to be posting every 2 weeks anymore. We're going to have a few compilation episodes coming out, and then I'm probably going to do more short contained series like I did with the solo CEO series that I did over the summer, which I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on that. But maybe like a series of episodes along one sort of theme, and they're not going to be released as regularly, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. I'm still offering coaching services. I'm also offering strategy and consulting services. I have power hours and VIP days available. Like I said, all of the past episodes are still available on the website, and we still have all of the Showing Up Solo courses, the Foundations for Success self-paced course, or the Setup for Success, which is the coaching version of that comes with bi-weekly coaching sessions for 6 months. We've still got marvelous messaging and wonderful websites and email ease and simplified social and Sales Trailblazer, which are the individual modules, all about marketing for solopreneurs. Also written from the perspective of someone who is neurodivergent. So I have tried to make these accessible. Again, if you have feedback for me, please, I would love to get the feedback, because I really do want it to be like an accessible space. So there's all of these things. Plus, there are some exciting things in the works that I'm not ready to announce yet, but watch this space. And of course, you can get a ton of free marketing resources by going to our website again, or try taking the marketing compass quiz, showingupsolo.com/quiz. And you'll answer a few questions and it'll guide you towards the right resource for where you are in your business right now. Thanks again for being here along on this journey with me, for listening as I shared my story. Like I said, I hope it helps. Please let me know, share with someone if you think it can help them. And before I go, I'm going to leave a few things in the comments. Like I said, you should definitely check out Dyslexia in Adults if you are an adult with dyslexia. Another thing that I highly recommend is Viva La Dirt League's series and companion podcast, ADHD and Me. So ADHD and Me is like it's a short series of very short comedy skits. It's a narrative about someone being diagnosed with ADHD later in life, and it's very funny and really beautifully conveys that experience. And then the creators, the writers, Britt Scott Clark and Ellie Harwood, both starring in it, and the writers of it, they also have a companion podcast where they dive deep into their own personal experiences with ADHD and late diagnosis. And it is a wonderful limited podcast series. It's really wonderful. Great way to sort of get a better, deeper understanding of yourself as a person with ADHD, or if someone you know and love has ADHD, it's a really great way to sort of understand their experiences. So I'm going to leave a link to that in the comments too. I really hope in the description, and I hope you check that out, because that's a really excellent piece of content. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you when I see you. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Showing Up Solo. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review or sharing your thoughts in the comments. These simple gestures help us appease the algorithm gods and continue to bring you great, free education. Ready to navigate the world of marketing with confidence? Take the Marketing Compass Quiz, available at showingupsolo.com, to discover the next phase of your journey. And don't forget to explore our range of courses and coaching programs while you're there. Let's transform your solo venture into a thriving success story together. Until the next episode, keep showing up and making your mark in the world of solopreneurship. See you soon.